In MMA, careers can end for many different reasons: age, injuries, or simply facing better competition. But Renato "Babalu" Sobral managed something even rare: a veteran fighter who torpedoed his own UFC career in just 20 seconds of inexplicable poor judgment. A Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt with 37 professional victories, former Strikeforce champion, wins over Olympic medalists and future UFC champion. Babalu was a fixture in the sport's golden era, respected, feared, and seemingly destined for a long career at the highest level. But then, one night in Las Vegas against an opponent that he was dominating, Babalu made a decision that would haunt him forever. A decision that didn't just end a fight, it ended a UFC career that had taken a decade to build. Today we are examining how a respected veteran became instantly infamous and whether one moment of poor judgment should define a fighter's entire legacy. This is the story of Renato "Babalu" Sobral, the UFC veteran who destroyed his own career with a single lapse in sportsmanship. Babalu didn't come out of nowhere. He was forged in Rio. Not the Instagram bikini tourist version, but the real Rio. The one where if you don't know how to fight, you learned real quick. He trained in the Gracie system, the OGs of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and he trained with legit black belts. Not the Hollywood kind, actual mats, sweat, cauliflower ear type of black belts. He turned pro at 21, ripped off 7 straight wins before you even learned how to pronounce anaconda choke. This was in 1997. Tank tops, VHS tapes, and bare-knuckle Vale Tudo. Not a single walkout song. Just a cold stare, a mouth guard, and a "let's see who leaves breathing." Now, before Americans even knew what a kimura was, Babalu was choking out people in Japan. He fought in rings where knees to the face on the ground were legal and no one gave a damn about your Instagram following. He faced Fedor Emelianenko. Yes, that Fedor, the last emperor, the cyborg from Russia with no neck. Did he win? Well, no, but you don't measure fighters just by their wins. You measure them by who they dared to fight. Babalu was fighting monsters and submitting judo black belts long before the UFC handed out Reebok kits. He wasn't flashy, and he wasn't trying to go viral. He was just trying to win or make you tap, preferably both. In 2000, Babalu made his UFC debut. He beat Maurice Smith, a former heavyweight champ, which not bad for a light heavyweight who hadn't even hit his prime yet. Back then, the UFC was not the global juggernaut that it is now. The cage looked like it might collapse, the lights were dim, Joe Rogan had hair. Babalu won fights, but money was tight, so he bounced. He took bigger checks overseas. And guess what? He kept winning. He became a fan favorite in the hardcore MMA circles, the kind of fighter your favorite fighter watched before they were famous. He wasn't chasing fame, he was chasing challenges. This was a guy who walked through fire for paychecks that wouldn't cover a month's rent in Vegas today. But still, he kept showing up, which leads us to his return to the big show. Babalu was a true MMA journeyman, not the washed-up kind, the world tour kind. He fought in Japan, England, Brazil, possibly even a backyard in Belarus. He kept evolving, added better hands, cleaned up his takedowns. His submissions were always razor sharp. His nickname Babalu wasn't some cute thing, it was the type of name that made you go, "Oh crap, I'm fighting Babalu?" His submission rate hovered around 70% during that time. That's not just high, that's try to blink and you're asleep type high. He started branding himself, not with goofy walkouts or trash talk, but with results. He'd get you to the ground, wrap his arms around your neck, and that was it. In 2003, Babalu came back to the UFC, this time with a chip on his shoulder and tools sharpened like a prison shiv. He smoked Travis Weeff in his return, choked out Mike Van Arsdale, a wrestling powerhouse, and Babalu was climbing. Fans were into it. He wasn't loud, he wasn't selling wolf tickets, he just beat people up and went home. Dana White said he was one of the most dangerous guys in the division. Not the kind that you market with drama, the kind that you market with violence. Babalu racked up wins. He beat Chael Sonnen when Chael still had a chin and wasn't running for Congress or whatever it is that he does now. He beat Mike Van Arsdale too. The UFC then rewarded him with a title shot at UFC 62. Chuck Liddell was champ, the Iceman, everyone's favorite Mohawk. And the fight was brutal. Babalu got clipped early and never recovered. KO'd in round 1. That loss hurt, but not as bad as what came next. He didn't quit. He came back, beat Jason Lambert. But something had shifted. His margin for error was gone. And then they gave him David Heath, a fight that Babalu should have walked through. And he did, but not the way that anyone expected. On paper, David Heath was not a huge threat, but the fight had bad blood. Heath wore a shirt that said Babalu's Barbecue, thinking it was funny. Spoiler, it wasn't. Babalu took it personally. He was already looking for a reason, and that shirt just gave him one. Trash talk wasn't new, but Babalu wasn't built for games. He was trying to sell pay-per-views. He was trying to choke you unconscious. He would, but it wouldn't end when it was supposed to. UFC 74 Vegas. The lights, the music, the crowd, the classic UFC vibe. Dana White, cage side, Bruce Buffer in full tux mode. David Heath walks out smiling. He's in on the joke. Babalu walks out stone-faced. You could tell it wasn't just another night. Tale of the tape, Babalu had the edge in grappling, experience, and violence. This was supposed to be a rebound fight, but it turned into a career landmine. The fight itself, it wasn't close. Babalu shot in fast, slammed Heath to the mat like a sack of bricks, and immediately went to work. Elbows opened Heath's face, fast, sharp, and unforgiving. Blood sprayed across the mat, smeared across Babalu's arms. It wasn't a cut, it was like a faucet. Heath tried to move, but every shift just made it worse. Babalu's fist hammered down like pistons. The crowd started getting restless. Some booed. Some were just quiet, just watching a man get broken. Commentators went from hype to concern. This wasn't dominance. This was punishment. Then came the choke. The anaconda choke. Babalu snatched it mid-scramble, rolled, and locked it up with full body pressure. Heath's legs kicked once, then stopped. You could see Heath tap, and you could see the ref trying to break it. But Babalu didn't let go. Seconds passed. Not 1, not 2, 4, maybe even 5, which is an eternity in a choke. Heath went limp, but still Babalu held on. His eyes were blank, his arms kept squeezing. It wasn't over until he said so. Until finally Steve Mazzagatti pried his arms apart. The cage went silent, like the sound had just gotten sucked out of the arena. Commentators were stunned. Heath was unconscious. Babalu stood over him breathing heavy, his chest heaving, blood still dripping off of his elbows. Then came the post-fight interview. They gave him the mic, and instead of damage control, Babalu said this when Joe Rogan asked him if he knew that David had tapped out. Yes, he has to learn respect.
So what you're saying is that you put him to sleep on purpose even though you knew that he tapped?
Yes, he has to learn respect. All right, I did what I did because he called me mother.
It's deep. Over. Very nice.
Babalu has beaten David Heath.
Whoa, Babalu did not let go and put David Heath to sleep even after David Heath tapped. And Babalu, seeing this, he squeezes anyway, won't let go, and puts him to sleep.
That was it. That one sentence detonated everything. Dana White was fuming. Heath's corner, furious. The crowd didn't even know how to react. Do they boo? Do they cheer? Do they file an assault charge? It was over. Not the fight, but Babalu's UFC career. One squeeze too long, one sentence too far, and just like that, he was done. Now, say what you want about Dana White, he'll let fighters brawl, bleed, and throw down like gladiators. But there is one thing he absolutely will not tolerate, which is making the UFC look bad. And Babalu did just that, on live pay-per-view with the world watching. Dana didn't mince words. He called it completely unacceptable, said it crossed the line, and within 48 hours, Babalu was cut. No suspension, no fine, no second chance. Just gone. Dana told the media there is no room for that kind of behavior in the UFC. Translation: you embarrassed me, you're out. Babalu won the fight, but he lost everything else. The MMA world split down the middle. Some fans said, come on, Heath was running his mouth, he got what was coming. Others, that was assault, bro, that's not martial arts, that's just stupid. The media, they weren't kind either. Headlines like, Babalu's career choke, from tap determination, and veteran fighter self-sabotages with respect stunt. Even hardcore fans who loved his style had to admit that the dude went full meathead in front of millions. And that I wanted to teach him respect quote, that thing followed him around like a tattoo that he couldn't laser off. Babalu didn't just hold the choke too long. He held it long enough to remind everyone he was a product of the old Vale Tudo days, when fights didn't always end when the ref said stop. Now that is not a good look in modern MMA. Babalu did apologize, eventually, sort of. He said he regretted holding the choke, but still felt disrespected by Heath's antics. Behind the scenes though, Babalu was shaken. Not just because he got cut, fighters get cut all the time, but because this wasn't just a job, it was his identity. The UFC is where he rebuilt his name, where he proved that he belonged, and now it was gone. Not because he lost, but because he lost control. He spent weeks off the grid, no interviews, no call-outs, just silence. Friends say that he took it hard. Not angry, ashamed. He watched the replay over and over, trying to understand what snapped in him that night. Babalu wasn't some villain, he was a proud fighter who made a stupid mistake and paid a full price for it. In the court of public opinion and Dana White's office, Babalu was guilty. Guilty of poor judgment. Guilty of letting his ego pull the trigger. Guilty of torching the last chapter of his UFC career with one extra squeeze. The UFC door was closed, and it wouldn't open again. Getting cut by the UFC doesn't mean that your career is over. Just ask Anthony Johnson, Robbie Lawler, or Alistair Overeem. But for Babalu, it meant exile. Still, he wasn't done fighting. In one of his first fights after the UFC, he submitted David Heath's old buddy Mike Whitehead at an Affliction show. He then jumped into Strikeforce, a promotion that welcomed veteran killers with open arms. And guess what? Babalu thrived. In his first fight for the promotion, he fought their light heavyweight champion Bobby Southworth and won the title. Yeah, you heard that right. The same guy who got fired on a win was now holding gold in a rival promotion. Babalu did what many couldn't, picked up the pieces and kept moving. Babalu's Strikeforce run was underrated. He wasn't just collecting paychecks, he was taking out top-tier talent. And when he fought Gegard Mousasi for the title, he lost. But again, he lost to a killer. Babalu was always taking hard fights. No tune-ups, no cans. Just tough dudes, tough nights, and tough outcomes. After losing the title to Mousasi, Babalu bounced back with a decision win over Robbie Lawler. Still, even outside the UFC, the shadow of that infamous choke lingered. Sponsors were hesitant. Media brought it up in every interview. Fans couldn't forget. Babalu had gold, respect, wins. But he also had baggage. And that baggage weighed heavy. After Strikeforce, Babalu bounced around, fought in one championship, Brazil, even World Series of Fighting. But the wars were catching up. His chin wasn't the same. His speed dipped. His ground game, still world class, but Father Time is undefeated. He lost to Dan Henderson in under 2 minutes in Strikeforce. Got TKO'd by Jacob Noe in Bellator. The writing was on the wall.
Well, I got a lot of respect for Babalu. I knew that he was a really good guy on the ground, was a legitimate black belt. I was kind of worried about hitting the ground with him. The goal was not to hit the ground, and it worked out for me. I did really well against my takedown defense. You know, I was trying to hit him with the one-hitter quitter, you know, because I didn't want to commit too much and get inside on him and let him take me down. Kind of bruised my hands up pretty bad for that, and I'm kind of feeling it during training, getting ready for Mo, but it's part of the sacrifice. I'm just getting after it. But I got a lot of respect for Babalu. I wish him the best, and anything he chooses after his fighting career. He was real respectful, which was kind of, you know, a shock to me because I didn't, you know, I guess I earned his respect. During that fight, you know, I was like, man, this guy's not going down. So he definitely didn't want to go out with a knockout. He wanted to sit there and fight, but he was just fighting the wrong guy, I feel like, you know.
Babalu finally retired from MMA in 2013. No big send-off, no Hall of Fame talk, no comeback tease. Just a quiet goodbye from a man who had seen it all and knew when to walk away. He opened a gym, taught jiu-jitsu, gave back to the sport. But that one moment, that 20 seconds against David Heath, it still defined him. Here is the million-dollar question. Was Babalu a villain, or just a warrior from the old school who couldn't evolve in time? He wasn't John Jones, he didn't fail drug tests, he didn't dodge opponents, he didn't run his mouth. He just let the heat of the moment get the best of him. And in MMA, sometimes one mistake is all it takes to erase years of hard work. Babalu was a pioneer, a savage, a technician, a throwback. But to many, he will always be that guy who wouldn't let go. And that's the tragedy. Not that he lost fights, not that he aged out, but that his worst moment became his legacy. To his students, Babalu's a legend. To old school fans, he's a warrior. To Dana White, he's a PR nightmare. But maybe, just maybe, Babalu's story isn't just about what went wrong. Maybe it's a cautionary tale for every fighter who lets ego, emotion, and pride push them past the rules. In the cage, you have got seconds to make decisions, and sometimes those seconds destroy careers. Babalu Sobral's legacy is complex, but one thing is for sure, he didn't go out quiet. He went out the same way he fought, choking someone out even when the bell already rang. So, what happened to Babalu Sobral? His career didn't end with a championship belt in the UFC or a teary farewell on live TV. It ended with scars, some visible, some not. Years after his last fight in 2019, Babalu opened up about something that hit harder than any opponent ever could: chronic traumatic encephalopathy. He said he was scared. His memory wasn't the same. He would forget things mid-sentence, struggle to find words, lose focus during conversations. And these weren't just signs of aging. They were the echoes of a career spent in wars, punch after punch, knockout after knockout. Head trauma that added up, slowly and silently. Babalu's admission didn't come with the headlines or outrage. A quiet moment of honesty from a man who had lived through the dark side of fighting. CTE is not rare in MMA anymore. It's the shadow that follows the highlight reel. It's the thing that fighters whisper about but rarely face until it's too late. But even with the possibility of CTE, he didn't hide. He taught, he coached, he gave back. Babalu Sobral's story isn't clean, and it isn't always easy to cheer for. He had the heart of a warrior, but sometimes lost the battle with his own emotions. Still, he is a fighter who mattered, who helped shape an era, who reminded everyone that this sport, this brutal, beautiful sport, isn't just about championships. It's about the stories of the fighter that we love to watch.